Voilà, sos. Ini tayang ngaran tangbo. Ta yang tarin ini. Ta kata huma shiba naji. Ini ta tangbo. Ini ja. Ini ta ngane ini longlo. Langsung kerja ni. Ini tata ngaco ledang. Ini sandang. Ini tersudam di mata not wajah. Bernata ngaran cukup. Cenya sabah majega kona. Ini ngaran cukup sama mama karsaba. Sama. Ini semjuk kono. Ini yang sejuja. Ini semjakan tadi juga baca. Ia cedok ini cuaca. Sembate bom bate nyamsul lebar jo nyampe ini wadah tu selawas.
Beginning our teaching, as we discussed previously last week. Before that, to begin setting our body in the proper posture, giving attention to the key points of one's posture, the physical posture. Then attending to the key points of the speech. Key points of the speech in our context being the expelling of the stale winds, performing 3 expellings of the stale winds as we did last week as well. So, performing all this, these preliminary parts of our receiving the teaching, are in order to make us suitable vessels for receiving the teachings. Our analogy, if you have fresh, new, liquid substance, water, something to drink, you first need a clean vessel, clean cup to put it in. So these attending to the first setting up your body, speech, and mind initially is making you a suitable vessel to receive these teachings. So then the key point of the mind, attending to the motivation, correcting one's motivation, to make one's motivation the precious mind of enlightenment, bodhicitta, that for the sake of every single sentient being being led to complete enlightenment, the stage of Buddhahood, that for that purpose, with that as our motivation for receiving these teachings, then we receive these teachings. We listen to teachings, receive the teachings, take what it is that we've heard and listened to, cultivate it through the practice of meditation to meld it with our own experience, to take it into our own experience. So now for a few moments we'll engage in these preliminary elements.
다 디다 남준데 춘정으로서 춘레레 견도 되는 로고요래 이나양다 데라고조 그로데라 이니 제바제나 되니 그속스 예양 배마제네 되니 예소 요소 윈소 찬양 지켜 이마도 찬양 손제 그속스요래 That's was it some mobiles on the some take Tamache. Then it Jima cannot on Yam also, and it cannot sort of Benjamin or two scares.
So these elements are what we call the preliminaries to the meditation session, the Chunking Undo. Preliminaries of the session should be engaged in any time you're engaging in a proper session. They begin your meditation session. So regarding the expelling of the stale winds, the Lungho cell, often it's taught that you perform the 9-fold expelling of the stale winds, which is 3 on the right, 3 on the left, 3 of both to cleanse the center. Equal, 3, 3, and 3. So today we don't have much time, so because lot to talk about, so we just perform the 3-fold expelling of the stale winds. But when you're at home, you can do the 9 or whatever you have time for. First of the 3 excellences, the excellent preparation of bodhicitta, giving rise to the precious mind of enlightenment, bodhicitta, the proper motivation. Then we've already engaged in that element as well.
Da nguje dene Lojong la yang dene ngara dangbo ya da sovata da sengine zogo terawa ane sovata pate ngondo joche ene da ngara zogo ya da ene lamara sovata betene chik lame ene da ngara zogo ene 독재와 친구보니 막 어디시니 랑라템 얘네 랑게다 가랑 저거 애네야 샘당 얘네 당가랑 저 애네 라미 톱 야메든 데서 쌈드네 양 디링왕나 때 스케이트네 냠바리자고 아디 가르세고 요새나 무지 민매 담아서 같이 당도 퉁게 타라지야 퉁게 타라 이네요 데스체미오 이네 다다당은 고라양 당아 주식 안에시 채널 그래요 그래서 다다당은 저 정보 얘네 다단데 아니 손득 같이 좀 단제일때 손득도 손득때 되는 거라도 더 잘들 얘네 다가로 때 시험도 소화다 기니야 데스 오가미 되는 게 버리자로나 문제 제기하도록
아니면
찍히는 나야 되네 같이 또 인터넷으로 또 라이어 같은 라이어 같이 하는 거죠.
자,
알았어.
We've engaged in the session preliminary elements. They need to go. So we've engaged in the session preliminaries. Now arriving at the main practice itself. So our main practice that we're engaging in now with these teachings is Lojong, mind training practice. So beginning our main practice, the first step, the first part of our main practice is to engage in supplication, recite supplication prayers. This is the key point of the mind, or another key point or key aspect related to the mind is engaging in the practice of supplication. So this prayer that's going around that I hope everybody's got or has, there's at least enough, you can look at your neighbors. So we'll recite these prayers now. And this should begin when you're at home. This will begin your main practice after you've done the preliminaries, and this begins your practice of Lojong. So as you're reciting this, you're perceiving the Guru. You're perceiving your Guru in front of you, inseparable from Guru Rinpoche, in the sky in front of you. You're reciting this supplication to them. At the conclusion of the supplication, then through the great love and compassion of the enlightened mind of the Guru dissolves into light, melting into you. Having melted into you, then the enlightened mind of the Guru and one's own ordinary mind mix inseparably. And then at that moment, you rest in the state of the inseparability of the enlightened mind and your own ordinary mind. The mixing of the Guru's mind and your mind. Resting in that state. So that then is, kind of by definition, the second excellence, the excellence of the main part, or the middle excellence, which is the practice of a non-referential, remaining in the non-referential state without free of distraction. So often this practice of mixing your mind and the enlightened mind comes at the end of a session or the end of a practice. But it's also fine to do it at the beginning, as we're doing in this context. So, so now we'll recite these supplication prayers. With this as our visualization, and then engage in this practice of the Guru melting into light, dissolving into us, the enlightened mind and our own mind mixing, and then resting temporarily in a non-conceptual state.
Duzum Zanje Naim Jenge Goje Nanye Banda Lama Tambala Soa Desu Wangru Jenge Landuzu Salam Ge Tomba Jeba Jenge La Gewa Singye Landuzu Jinjen Zawe Lama Jenge Denjera Yimbo Lembe Yunde Dendagi Yula Gewara Jenge Landuzu Gewa Gomba.
Now, what's in English?
I pray to the glorious sacred Lama, the essence of all Buddhas of the three times, and the embodiment of the four Kayas. Grant me the blessings of empowerment. Bless me that the extraordinary realization of the profound path arises in me. Kind Lord Guru, grant your blessings that your enlightened qualities of having taken up the very heart of privileges and advantages rise in my mind. Yom Zanje Tam Jenge Mo Goye Danye Bande Lama Nambala Sovande Soy Dala Wongwe Shinge Salange Domba Kebra Jenge La Kebra Jenge Landus Jinja Zawe Lama Jenge Tanjur La Yimbol Yunjen de la Gege la Yora Jinge Landu Gewa Gumba Rite Dayenje Kaza Mile Gabara Tambe Jeza Danye Najemba Jeza Lama Namba Jasa. The mind-to-mind lineage of the workers, the sign lineage, and ordinary human beings with the Supreme Lord Fortune,
being cared for by sublime beings.
The twofold purpose is perfected. I prostrate to the Buddhas of the three lineages.
Again, that prayer in Tibetan.
Arvato jani mo java jumbo jojan jumen jave tata tata sumya samjana tanjani ne lampara shinye.
Although I have obtained freedom, I am poor in the essential Dharma. Although I have entered the door of Dharma, I am distracted by non-dharmic activities. May I and sentient beings like me who are deluded be blessed to acquire the essence of its freedoms and advantages.
Ora, ini ngaran tuh Tela, tatu siapa tak katang ini ngaran tuh Taiwan jadi, dicebera. Ini ngaran tuh penata, ini nata, jawab jadi siapa. Ini tendes jadi ini ngaran tuh ini, tak tes ngaran tuh ini, penata ini ngaran tuh Taiwan tahu jadi nata, kalau ini jadi tela, pola tes tahu, mula. Jagoms, tela tes and jagomche. Ne tegi jela tes, yang aran tu betul, yang paling saja ne tala mana, sambil ni maya tes, yang jodoh terus ceres.
So beginning in this way, then as we discussed last week on the topic of the 8 freedoms, going over the 8 freedoms as our main topic of Lojong to contemplate on. So today we'll be discussing the 10 advantages. So for us, we've engaged in the practice up to this point, and now the main practice of Lojong. So say we're continuing our practice, we're focusing our Lojong practice on the 8 freedoms. Then initially, when we get to this point, then we engage in the aspect of analytic meditation, contemplative meditation, analyzing, contemplating on the 8 freedoms as we discussed, received teachings on. So first you engage in the analytic meditation, and then you follow that up with the resting or placement meditation, resting in a state of equipoise, where you can rest in the state of equipoise, again mixing the enlightened mind of your root teacher with your own ordinary mind, and resting in the state of the inseparability of those two, and go back and forth in this way.
Ang chitris cheba yin sangendo, mong pangan tris chega yin sambandawo. Tendawo kata pet chusur any mong pin namto. Any check tada karsada namto kare shawandawo. Tiki jis madamache. Then young, then ngaran to namto shanken, taking more part, and then test him and yampricache. That day, then ngaran to any disagreement. Muish, any, miguamebas.
Right now, the main practice, so the main practice of excellence, the middle, says to remain in a non-referential state, free of distraction. So now Rinpoche would like us to practice training in this, resting in a state without reference point. Resting in a state of equipoise, non-conceptuality. So this, when we say the non-referential state of the main practice, namely means a state not afflicted by thoughts of the 3 times. Thoughts of the past, meaning ruminating on, oh, I did that time I've done that, having thoughts, thinking about what we've done in the past, thoughts of the future. Tomorrow I need to do this, I will be doing that. With regard to it not being like contaminated by thoughts of the present. So in the present moment, whatever thoughts arise, not following after them, not grasping onto them and following after them to proliferate them, but instead resting without being contaminated by any thoughts of the three time. In the moment of a thought arising, look directly to the essence of the subject perceiving the thought arising. Look directly to the essence. In looking at the essence, then, in that moment of recognition, rest in a state of equipoise. So Rinpoche would like us now to train in this way, training in the main practice of remaining in a non-referential state, free of distraction. So now we'll begin our teaching.
dambi chala nyelam powa je sala kodisa domet chongme lami kalong manor pa ramo jibyin ngejen da xieje tatang lami daju xingjelo tatang lami daju xingjelo tatang lami daju xingjelo ala sata nene 다 tereng ngaran zogo lojong nene tabu nane 다 darwaji kadan songje 다 제랑스 고미여지래 nene jorwa kyote yang 제랑스 nene 다다 가르세 자저요 벨로 저려 제랑서라 nene 쉬요 nene 제수 받지 세여지래스
Last week we began the actual Lojong topics, beginning with the first one, the topic of the 8 freedoms. So we began that teaching. The instruction, the homework was to meditate on the 8 freedoms. So I trust that most of you probably did that. Also today's topic, the topic of the 10 advantages. We I gave you the page numbers, what to read on that, so I also trust that you probably read that.
알았어. 다 데니스 다 트레이너랑 좀 무지시월 제바데나 다 애니 양 노경 당보니 애니 다 체버 추짐 jorwa kyus 봐. 내님 jorwa kyotela 양 좀 랑조르가 당 힘조르가 다 랑이 그거니 내님 jorwa 당 이제 다 말한 저기 현재 특이하게 돈이 jorwa 봐. 여발에 스타트 모델은 랑조르가 시행이스.
So today our main topic of the 10 extraordinary, 10 unique advantages. So of the 10 advantages, we have 5 contingent upon oneself and 5 that are dependent upon external circumstances. So the 5 relating to oneself are dependent upon one's own condition, what oneself has. And the 5 dependent upon external circumstances are dependent upon external things, other things. So of those 10, we start with the first 5, the 5 dependent upon oneself.
다 땡금상남이 샤고 나가야 누룩 네 왕의 창제 이네 다 당보 아니 거는 좋아 다 당보가란 쪽 매일 돼 고레스.
So in Kumsang Shalom words, my perfect teacher, this begins with a quote by Nagarjuna regarding the advantages relating to oneself, dependent upon oneself. So the first one needed is the support of a human body. Seems that we all have that.
Oh yeah. Nasta 데드네 잼다 말한 쪽에 애청고 차고요다. 그런데는 내 말한 좀 로마를 가고나니 되니까 매일 되는데 내 상처 주고 다때 제발 팔바데 간다다 때 탐지다 말한 쪽에 아니 되게 탐지 상황 매일 드레스 특히 제 탐지 상황
김투진
장난 산이해 인기 그 인지가 연애한 거죠.
맞습니다. Generally speaking, human condition is quite extraordinary. Of all the potential physical supports, bodies, places you can arrive at within the 6 realms of existence, for attaining complete enlightenment, Buddhahood, the human condition is uniquely extraordinary. At this, it said that within the human condition, all within a human body, within the human situation, all necessary conditions can be gathered for attaining enlightenment.
That's what you have to buy. Then 다 가르쳐. 아니 자가르기 미세월에 네발리기 미세월에 한다. 네발리기 대사 네발리 사자래도 이게 토라 아니 yapte any sejan business yonde juma lanze singen digitane
Juman.
any status
The Buddha Shakyamuni himself was a human being. Was he not? So among human beings, he was an Indian, or maybe Nepali. These days, Lumbini, where the Buddha was born, is in Nepal, so they're staking their claim. The Buddha is Nepali. His father, the king, Seton, and his mother. What was the Buddha's mother's name?
Mayadevi.
Mayadevi. So yes, with those as his parents, was born Siddhartha.
ta ngaran so go pena ta matsuki chuta any ta ngaran so go peti kesere any jikpen ge shawai jikpen go go ya bo chat bo ba ina ya tuje go do asa ma do ngaran so tene trasa in wa so go mi do asa pena ta ngaran america go ta ngaran so go ga chimu yoro ati kharsa ha 그다음 로네 당고치 먹은 거 들었어. 이 입에 딱 마스 머리 가래 농바스 미로. 근데 내가 가르쳐요. 용 가르쳐요. 특이한 거가 왔어요. 일단 내가 그건 좋아지지 않아요.
So just being a human, and on top of that, in order to really accomplish anything, many other causes and conditions need to be gathered. There are many elements to any given circumstance that need to be there on top of just being a human if you're to accomplish something, even in a worldly context. You need to gather many things together. Many things need to come together for you to achieve. For example, if you're studying, trying to learn some topic, then it's never just going to naturally, come to you, that understanding, just by being a human being. You have to study hard to do that. You have to study, engage, and different conditions need to come together. Maybe you want to go to Harvard University, great university in America. Many things have to come together. Yes, you probably have to be a human being, but then you're going to need your passport. If you're Indian or Nepali or something, you need your passport, you need your visa, you need to be, very learned, studied in whatever it is, and only then, once all these different conditions come together, could you do such a thing.
Tene da ngaran zo pena ene da pena sanji shikya to ban rawo ji yenas da kore da u mul지 타버 물 대가 나야 다 지가서 초도 줘봐서 레기래도 야때 잡고 이마 그러나 레기에서 통해 아니 되게 돈은 호주야 할래가 통모르도 와 아, 되게 돈이 빼도 계세요 잡고 레기고 이마 jabu yung do ene pede repeat ni tam chela jang juter tukyo tsam ge stick up jala juter
Art.
Juter.
야 juter tukyo tsam ge singen do 그래서 참마나 해 봐지야 돼 근데 약속 정도야 그상 알아서 하람도 같이 먹어도 와 상 알아서 다 그러니까 때 본인들도 저도 와 내가 뭐 지혜도 와 내가 알아서 뭐 배제해서 이게 토라지 썰고 토라 빼는 다 깊게 쇼 요게 되네 배제해서 시행은 근데 대서 지혜네 근데 자식 소였다 근데 배제 자식 수모 대서 다 아니 소유 내가 가서 듣기 대서 탐지가 안 담고 내요 봐안 담고 내가 맞지 근데 이하부터 바로 야부터 ene ngaranzo go ene jasu kyang sumo ye jase ene jabse ene jase to tamke jene chasan jedo was da jigengi chone kozo ang tambu koda ang tambu go shawade rekibu maeba kozo chasan dobios
Taking the Buddha Shakyamuni as our example. So, yes, he was born a human being, So he wasn't just born an ordinary human being, he was born into the supreme class, the highest caste of his culture, and born to a prince, the son of a king. So not only was this like, you know, his ancestry, was he of the highest caste and a prince, but just being that, just being born a prince doesn't really bring you anything, doesn't bring you the power or ability to act as a king. You also need to study, learn all sorts of different things. So in all of his studies and trainings, he was, you know, studied and trained in everything and excelled at absolutely everything, was first in everything that he did. So what was called the 64 arts. He became expert in all these 64 arts of the time of his caste, of the, you know, royal caste. And really back then it was somewhat similar to our presidential debates of today, where there was you weren't just, you know, granted your status. There was debate. You had to fight for it. You had to compete for it. There was all sorts of different competition in learning and arts and crafts, different skills in archery and athletic endeavor, all sorts of things. And all of this, he was first place. He was excelled, the best at everything. Gained the status, gained by this, then he truly gained, you know, the ability to act as king. Act as king, married, had a son. So anyway, just to point out that it wasn't just that the Buddha was born into this royal supreme class. He trained, excelled, and became the ultimate master of all these various different worldly arts and activities too.
이나요, 되네? 가라앉으다 저기 장하는 데 집어요 맞아. 주문 망보, 전 코르 망보, 농교 첨보. 이나요, 대잠지게 참말 맞이해봐. 되네? 다 쳐라 말아봐. 코요는 메셀다. 그래서 되네? 가르지 염에. 되네? 심적으로 배. 되네? 강을만 모여봐라. 기아와 나와 가와 치와. 되네? 망보 설계. 되네? 다 말하는 그 인고 매바지다. 되네? 제스이나요. 지 인고 매바지 zini. 되네? 응, 지금 말하는 그 되네? 말하는 그 가르쳐. 당시에 되네? 말하는 그 당제제네. 되네? 말하는 그 배는 되네. 야. 되네? 로정체가 배로 왔어. 되네? 말하는 그 우다. 되네? 코로나는 그 우다. 되네? 가서 작하는 마 치를 그. 되네? 가서 배나 자그렇게 잠새던 데다 뺀제. 되네? 코로나 로정체 공작 되네스 제버레스. 제가도 뭐지 쓰고 쉬워서 그랬어.
Having studied, accomplished all this, then he gained like all the, you know, rights of being a king. A vast retinue at his bidding, had many queens. But all of this didn't satisfy him. He still had curiosity to, in particular, to see what was going on outside. Leaving his own comfortable environment, going outside, then he saw that there were many difficulties, many problems. For all sorts of, for everyone. In particular, he saw the sufferings of birth, old age, sickness, and death. By seeing this, then he directly saw the essencelessness of it all, meaninglessness of it all. So even for a prince with such a exalted status and everything you could ever want, by gaining the recognition that really in essence it's meaningless, it has no essence, this worldly life, then being a prince, whatever it is you have won't be satisfying. So then he escaped from his kingdom, cut his hair, and studied the spiritual ways. Relied upon, received teachings from the various great sages, Indian sages of the time, studied their teachings and meditated. And all of you probably know all this, have read all about this history, the story of the life of the Buddha.
다 뒤값을 때는 저걸 좋다 먹고요. 좋다. 하나 버려도 되는 양내 지금 먹고요. 다 힘들겠다. 나랑 그래서 참아 법조 나니 양 검작게 로 좁던 데다 가게 다 갑자기 장바기 다 장교 둘에서 이제 걸어봤더니 맨날 갑자기 장바기는 레드스 보면 당야
갑자기 기왕박이 종의 상징.
주라. 나 상징이라고 나가. 근데 대서 탐지 나오니 하동이야. 대 탐지기 콜베기 때문에 싸워 쫓고 매도. 가능해서는 왜서 그 다째 가란 쪽가 되네. 다 춘이기 때문에 보고 오니기 내로 또 보고 여봤더니 따와 투가 총제제네.
춘이기 때문에 톡. 되네.
오니기 따와 라스. 오니기 따와 마도나 되네 스피기 따와 곰지국게 통다. 말아서 띵인데 기복이 때문에 되네 말아서 대답이 따로 말아서 또가 제버지 돈이 아니 다른 말아서 그야 되네 토가 총제제네 되네 랑 상지 그래봐 아니 되네 상지가 드락데 잡아라 상지가 드락니 되네 못에 봐 다들 아주 못에 봤어요 봐 다 간다 자gar 같은 정말 좋게 그래 코도 레벨 해봐 좀토리 여죠 너희 여죠 초반으로 여다고도 대서 탐지 상마 다 계속 효사 맞서 돌고 있어요 봐 렌더치고 써버리고 가능해서는 내 마이는 가는 쪽을 대시 안 가는 쪽을 그래서 대체마다 희망 말아 내가 가서 탐지해 되네 가서 늦어지네 나는 대탐지 다 가서 르바다这个托呢，等咱们这个托呢，等长了当然做个这个呢，但说个呢，那不是节节呢，等节瓦生的差了吧？你告诉他节瓦生呢，等节卡托呢，节瓦生。
个人那不节了，
个人那不是节呢，等节瓦生。我来说，我打多些呢，等三级生的出门吧。제장 다 다당 안 하는 좀 목적지다 서로 제거해서 아주 딱야 그 덤바 되게 되네 코랑 게다 톡 되네 똑바다 되네 되게 라기 담비 추대 나 코랑 그 카레스 제제니 되네 아주 막 빵야 껴한 담비 카레스 빵바이 나랑서 랑이엔 게다 나랑서 그 대식님 그 요한테 담비 카레스는 뭐든 줄말에 대처를 만으로 봤대 다 담배 추진 다 나라도 뒤지서 줘요 다 당문 나라도 니팀 되라 다 들은 나라도 양배리 가시다 살마들 여지래 남과서는 가래임 신이 여지래 봐 대대는 얘때는 당고 산제들 이렇게 뜻이 있잖아 팽을 해서
In India at that time, there were almost countless, many different spiritual philosophies, and many different masters, many different sages that had attained some degree of a spiritual realization or siddhis, something. So the Buddha, in his travels, studied all of the many different systems, philosophies of the time, and studied with all the great masters of the time, and meditated on those teachings, cultivated those teachings, culminating in his staying in strict meditation for 6 years, the 6 years of ascetic practice, where the teachings he was training in that's going up. Sorry. I had last one. So the Buddha, meditating for 6 years. So the teachings he was meditating on kind of propounded that through extreme asceticism, that by denying the body of everything, remaining solely focused on the practice of a samadhi, meditative concentration, that the ultimate liberation would be attained in that way. So training in this way, he came to the conclusion that through such practice as that, such practice that is solely focused on developing one's meditative concentration, the power of samadhi, that the actual root of samsara, of cyclic existence, is not touched, cannot be cut through such practice. That as long as the truth of the true nature of reality, the truth of dharmata, is not realized, is not directly seen, as long as the view of emptiness is not fully realized, then samsara cannot be transcended. True practice is solely focused on meditative concentration. You're like missing the point. You cannot gain ultimate liberation. So gaining, having that understanding, then training based on that understanding, gained his extraordinary spiritual realization of complete enlightenment, himself gaining this stage of the complete enlightenment of a Buddha. And following this, his teachings being different, there were, as we said, many different teachers and different systems in India at the time. And there were who were called the 6 teachers. They were like the most exalted sages of the time, who had gained various different powers, magical abilities, clairvoyance, and different abilities through their own system. So they challenged the Buddha to compete, challenged him to debate, compete based on logic, based on natural powers and spiritual realization and so forth. And he was victorious over all of them, where he gained the moniker the complete victor over all, which is also why we call the Buddha the victorious one, victorious over all, everything. So that's the story of the Buddha in short. So the realization that he gained within his own mind, that is the spiritual realization that we're after. And we strive in gaining that realization by following the teachings that he put forth, which is the Dharma. The teachings of the Dharma, where we're instructed on what it is that needs to be abandoned, how to abandon it, how to relinquish the faults that are to be relinquished, and also how to develop the direct manifestation of our innate Buddha nature, the Buddha nature that lies within all of us, how it is to make that apparent, manifest. So everything, the teachings that show that, unerringly, perfectly show that path of how to do that, is what we call the sacred Dharma. So anyway, I'm sure most of you know all of this, have heard all of this. There are some new faces here, maybe some complete newcomers to the Dharma who maybe they don't have any idea what it means to be a Buddhist. So I thought it would be beneficial to give this little refresher.
가능했으면 산지 고래기 손으로 해봤어 살아. 이니 체란세 니 취해봐대 따지게 땅쇼스. 그러나 쓸려고 지나 양 땅과 이니 이니 싹 내가 또 가르쳐 이니 또르제 이니 양 땅과 이니 하고 그랬어. 대나이 체란송고 빼나 따지게 땅네. 니 취해봐대나 Jumsen dona, neman dona, and cannot the dear shows. They mina, only not a tombarese, ne dear young mobiles.
So regarding the teaching, the authenticity of the teachings, the Buddha himself said, all you experts investigate, analyze what it is I say and what I've said, what I've taught. Analyze what I've taught. Comparing it to gold. If you have something you think might be gold, in order to know if it's pure gold or not, there's things you have to do. You have to analyze it properly. You have to burn it, rub it, and cut it, and so forth. Only then can you gain the confidence that, yes, that's pure gold. So in the same way, the Buddha instructs us to examine his teachings, examine what he says. If they are reasonable, if they're based on reason, if they're true, through your analysis you come to that conclusion, they're true, they're based on sound reasons, then accept them, then follow after me. If you find them to be unacceptable, not true, then no need to follow me. I don't want you to follow me.
다 대대지소는 다 가는 상기기 추들 가당 벤주스는 니요. 다 가성이 다 자기가 또 바라는 것 같더니 송이자고 왔더니 가당 가서 비름들이 가서 도와 어떤 자라스죠. 아니 다 때라더니 자그렇게 해봐도 속에 되네 아제 당제 다 늘었다고더니 다 돼서 담겠다. 나는 송이자고 니자스기도 와. 다 때는 벤주스고요. 그다음에 다른 마스키야 벤주겠다. 제일 좋아. 이는데 자그렇게 말봐. 말아서 다 자그렇게 그냥 뒷벤주 때라더니 아주 해봐도 속에요. 양자도 제지나 어떻게 진다 말이야.
So regarding the teachings of the Buddha, we call the Buddha Dharma, we have what we call the ka and the tencha. The ka literally meaning the actual speech. The actual speech referring to the Kangyur, the actual words of the Buddha, which we have here, a little over 100 volumes of the actual spoken words of the Buddha, spoken teachings of the Buddha. So, and then we have what are called the tencha, or the commentaries, or the tengyur, which are in over 200 volumes, the commentaries to the direct teachings of the Buddha. This is what we call the tencha, or the tradition of the commentaries. And both of these are what we call the Buddha Dharma, direct speech, and the commentaries based upon the direct speech. So the texts that we're basing our current teachings on fall within this second category of commentaries, the tencha. That being said, our text now was not written by... those 200 volumes of commentaries were composed by the experts, the scholars of India, like Nagarjuna and so forth, the various different scholar, master, adepts of that time. So our current text was composed within Tibet by a Tibetan. So we have this like subcategory of the commentaries, the Tibetan commentaries, which are based upon the Indian commentaries.
알았어. 다 띵가는 소리 니바데 다 니바들 가려고 했잖아. 하고 물에 잡았어. 다 니바데 다 가서 추르스 좀 보고 여봐 sonza. 되니 추 매바 추 되니 고만요서도 열지에서 때 가서 접시그라 말봐. 다 띵서 다 뭐마이나 추일 사자들 노래. 다 띵서 다 받쳐 에네. 다 잠불하는 찹쌀이 다 라버드 아니 그래서 인제 트라자를 토리다 간세 가서 땡주도 담게다 상마 포조마다 간세 땡초초 차살했어 근데 니바들다 그 최다보다 니바들은 최여비 요소거든
So we've covered our first advantage, being a human being, having a human body. So our second advantage is being a human in a land of the Dharma, a land where the teachings exist. So we're a human being, and our purpose is to gain accomplishment, gain the realization of the teachings of the Dharma. So if we're in a place where not a single word of the Dharma has been heard, there's no Dharma to be found, then that can't be accomplished. So the second advantage is to be a human being in a place with the Dharma. In the olden days, the Dharma was not all over the world in every country on the planet. It was quite rare. There were only relatively few places that had the teachings. But today they're quite easily accessible. The teachings of the Dharma, Buddhism has covered the globe, especially with our modern technology of the internet. We can find all sorts of teachings on the internet. The entirety of the spoken words of the Buddha and the commentaries on those spoken words we can readily find. They're readily available for us to find. So anyway, the second advantage is being in a land of the Dharma.
다 순바대 원고 참았어요. 다 원고 마사나 이니 다 기타 빼는 거라도 더 변하고 있나 들어와. 베네탄가는 좀 토를 놓으라고 좀 로고나 지금가는 아니 대학교 고도와
또 주체모.
아야야 나는 딱 됐어요. 때는 딱 가는 거랑 좀 빼나 아니 왕고 맞잖아 아니 딱 교상 무슨 차상 개발라 알아요 아니 어디서 나도 왕고 맞상 받아미게 가만 매주들이야 말했어 얘네한테 소리긴도 되네 양내지 알까요 그거 빼나 얘네 맥매 되는 거라서 압교고 뭐 되라고 얘네야 어렸어 얘네 대답을 했더니 제가라서 소리긴도 양 제가 가려고 그랬을 때는 좀 왕복 창에를 가시면 그래서
Third is having all of one's faculties functioning faculties. So this is important. Also important in other contexts. Have all your faculties present if you're to learn something, study something effectively. If you go to college, it's easier to learn to study in college if you have all your faculties present, functioning. Lacking the function of any one of your faculties, then engaging genuinely, perfectly in the three aspects of listening, contemplation, and meditation or cultivation just becomes quite difficult. It's not to say that it can't be accomplished at all whatsoever, but it's more difficult when you have no eyes to see or are deaf. It creates difficulties to perfectly learn, ascertain something. So for this reason, this third advantage of having one's faculties complete is emphasized and quite important.
이나양 되네 빼나되네 주 도트블레스 도트블레 말한 게 되네 아버지 오래 몰라지 아버지 아마 아버지가 아버지 오래 그런 로 하람 되네 다 뉴스 숨겨놨더니 고맥이 통하면서 뉴스 숨겨 치킨아 내가 옛날에 두고야 말아 아니 그 출배하고 지금이래 하람 되네 고백해서 보는 출마로 내가 연 말에 백해서 많은 성공을 더 살을 때는 거기서 딱 그 때문에 출발 치킨아 맞서는 약수라고 찼어
But really, it's not to say that lacking some faculty, you can't accomplish the Dharma at all. In fact, Rinpoche's own uncle. Grandmother?
Yeah.
Grandmother. Rinpoche's grandmother, his father's mother. When she was 20 or 30 years old, she lost her eyesight, went blind. But she actually became quite accomplished Dharma practitioner. Recited tens of millions or hundreds of millions of the Mani Mantra. Really, she had nothing else to do anymore. So she was able to do nothing but focus solely on accomplishing the Dharma. Really, she was probably the best practitioner out of all of us, the whole family.
아니 그런 시련을 뜻을라야 bet제스를 찍더니 그 가서 그 무슨 냠내기를 시험을 뜻을라야 그때 찍 안에 따다 뜻을 찍 틈을 많이 막 빼야고도 이나야 다 커서 가려는 거예요 말해서는 다 빼자면 뭐 따야 로경제야 다 대표가 고급지를 하면 이나야 암조 통보여서去年 돌아와 그냥 가시 암조 먹어요 I'm sure more than that, woman, you got to you what inside, which you do. What a curious.
She spent her whole life engaging in the Dharma, and when she passed away, there were quite extraordinary signs showed up of her accomplishment. So the sign showed up that she had gained accomplishment, even though she hadn't read any texts, hadn't been able to engage in any type of study, thorough study at all whatsoever. But her ears did work well, so in that way she was able to listen to teachings, receive teachings, and showed the signs of her accomplishment, having not studied at all. Maybe if she'd been deaf too, then who knows, she couldn't even listen to the teachings. And historically, if you're deaf, there's no means for you, but today we have different surgeries, operations that can change that. Yeah, like hearing aids and so forth.
That's somebody that can say, "Lady Tano was in." And this guy covers. One woman, my son, could do anything. Lady Tano, then there's a better look at the end of the one. Lalo don't look at the Katanga to Pian. I say, Mokoma Piana. You're really Jane, Pantoyama, Pama Karina, Pantoyama, Pama Chobaina, Kaya Pantoyama. What's a duel at Tapship Noah? Then covers.
Next, fourth is lifestyle non-conducive to the Dharma, engaging in a non-conducive lifestyle. Really, this is kind of maybe one of the worst. It's worse than not having your faculties complete. Really, you're engaging in a non-conducive lifestyle or oppositional lifestyle. And probably is relating to your having wrong view or being like a barbarian, as we talked about last week, in the 8 unfree states of holding wrong views and being a barbarian. Or if you have such a lifestyle, non-conducive lifestyle, then either conditions won't be able to be of any benefit. You can be born in a central land, meaning the central land where the Dharma is. Having a wrong lifestyle won't make any difference. Your parents can be great Dharma practitioners, and that won't be of any benefit as well. Really, it's quite difficult if you have such a bad lifestyle.
Da ini ngapa tela? Ini da parece. Ini da mixer. Anggaran suku juga ni cuci tonang ya, berapa besar. Tapi mana yang juga goyang malah juga marah. Dia ngapa deh? Da kantor nerji membuat tak malu, ini cuci deba. Or tadi ngapa deh? Awak sang yo demete, sang dona, ini rani kecoba lagi sang bales.
Fifth, we have lacking faith. So if you don't have any particular interest, inclination, or faith in the Dharma, in the teaching, then there's no doorway for you to enter into the Dharma. That is the doorway, having faith, having an inclination for the teaching. So lacking this, then you're lacking, there's no way to enter the teaching. So that's our fifth advantage relating to oneself. So these 5 advantages dependent upon oneself. Being a human born in a central land, having one's faculties complete, not engaging in a non-conducive lifestyle, and having faith in the teachings. So these are the 5 contingent upon oneself. So you check within yourself. Ask yourself, are all 5 of these complete within me in my current situation? Do I have all 5 of these? Then if you do, you have the 5 advantages related to oneself.
참 노사만이나 가공부레스. 말씀은 첨보레도스.
If you have all of them, then you need to have joy, be grateful that you have all of them. What tremendous merit I have to have all 5 of these complete.
가리에서나 나랑 땐 체벌견인데 아니 랑거 Then around so better. Da Seje la finish Shancho. Drop to Guione. Yendondo. Then it send your part maybe third up to Guione. Yete, around so the Tangoti. Jute Moshibo, then around the Dorje Palamrochi, Yenarva. Around Dorje Palamrochi. Ravina. Then Palam the Sacha Moyamashina. I didn't get that with Rava. Tapojamore, Maran Jogo of Chasm Patson Javina. Right, I'm so very patient of Ragre. And at the minute, Maran the Giant in Javina, and Maran the Patches and some so much charm. Machina, then go yonder campaign when you might get a canyon of Yuja. Tender, getting Maran near by the Coco. Young Aja Marwa. My neighbor does a ninja. And this getting what's all I am? Ninja. What's a Chihuahua? Maso me by Chihuahua. Some day by Chihuahua. What's all I think around sober? Tedra with Chona. Chimano, Kariakus. There, Tari, not yet a mother by the Yapasonga. Ni yet a pet of Bodo. Don't drop Bodo. Better around so dead Chibarkina. God dead Chibarkete. Bejo Tango Bodo. Tola Tangimino. Such a way by the Tola Tang Marwa. Such a way by the Tola Tang. Wrong, Gally to a met. Any but just a little, Carlos said, and said, dig like I draw muscle. Chimelaka, draw muscle. And then Kaya met it, Tola over. It's both.
So give rise to the sense of joy, gratitude, in having these. Joy, gratitude, and recognizing our current situation. Really the unique extraordinariness of our current situation. And why? Because having these particular conditions affords us the opportunity to accomplish our own welfare. On the ultimate level, affords us the opportunity to gain complete enlightenment, the stage of Buddhahood, in one single lifetime. We have that chance. Likewise, affords us the opportunity to accomplish on a vast scale the welfare, the benefit of others. We're able to do this. We have that capacity. So we need to recognize this. We have to recognize the causes and conditions that we have replete right now, the situation that we're in order to make it useful. Kind of analogous to having a diamond. You have an invaluable diamond. Just having the diamond by itself, just possessing it, is kind of useless as long as you don't understand what it is you actually have, the value of what it is that you have, the sacredness of it. As soon as you understand that, say it's a diamond, oh God, I have this invaluable, precious diamond, then you're going to take good care of it. Then you'll understand what it can do for you. You go broke one day, then, oh, I have that diamond I can sell and get all my money back. Or it's a beautiful diamond, oh, I can wear it. It's, the perfect, best, piece of jewelry, ornament I could have. Anyway, point being, if you have something, you have to understand what its value is in order to use it effectively. If you don't, then there's the danger that you just completely squander it. If you don't know what you have, then it'll go to waste. If you don't know your diamond is a diamond, one day you sweep it off into the garbage can and it's gone. So just having found something, just having something won't suffice. You need to recognize what it is you have and then cultivate a sense of joy, gratitude in having that. So recognizing our situation, how sacred, great our situation is. So in recognizing it, we're not to give rise to some sense of arrogance or pride. Oh, I have it, I'm so uniquely great, I have this. But instead of that sense of arrogance or pride over others, we're to cultivate a sense of compassion towards others. Compassion towards other human beings, towards other sentient beings that lack these facilities, the causes and conditions that we have, this good situation that we have. So a sense of compassion towards them, recognizing that they're lacking that, and then on top of that thinking how wonderful it would be if they could find well-being, have everything replete, find liberation. How great that would be. I'll do whatever I can to bring that about. It's almost like so, yeah. What are you doing, meditating over there? I think that's about it. Yeah, anyway, just recognizing is meditating over there. Yeah, go count time DJ. I said, that's how I meditate. I look down. Recognizing what we have. Without having recognized it, you can't make use of it. If you lack that recognition, understanding, then, lacking that, seeing what exactly it is we do have right now, you might have a sense of how, like, woe is me. Nobody has it worse than me. Oh, that's happened to me again. It's going terrible for me, sort of thing. It's a self-pity sort of situation. Having such a mindset, then it becomes impossible to accomplish your own welfare, to make your own life meaningful, to be of benefit, to accomplish the welfare of others. And really, the opportunity of this lifetime is completely gone to waste.
니한테 연주를 왔어요. 나한테 라니긴 줄 나한테 창거래 다동이야 마창바여나 아주 창약 답이죠. 근데 가래 창미도 아주 창약이야. 매저죠. 제가
So next we have the advantages dependent upon external conditions. So one more point regarding the advantages dependent upon oneself. So you check in, do I have all 5 of these? And maybe you don't, maybe you're lacking one. Then if you find that you're lacking one, then you're to come up with whatever method means you have to get that one that you're lacking, to strive and put effort towards getting all 5. This is the one I'm missing, this is what I need to do to have it.
대대 딱 말아도 이거 내 투명 많이 받지 여기서 가려서는 맞춰 선제 이해다 몰라 가려서는 맞춰는 남줘요. 싫어요. 내년 제가 노조요. 대대 누구래나 맞을 빵. 야 보이나 맞을랑 맞춰 타기제 도 어쩌고들.
One particular quality that we all have, that you have as being a human being, what separates us from most other sentient beings, from other beings, is our intelligence, our ability to analyze, to investigate, to reason, our intellect. This is unique. This is a unique quality of being a human being. We have the power to look into a situation. This is negative. This needs to be rid of. This is positive. This is what I need to take up.
얘네 도스제는 말하는 쪽에는 상지 톱석인데 도스를 와 갈래 말하는 쪽 끼얹어서 덤지 갈래 끼얹 치와서 덤지더니 갈래다 녀몽과 침보서 봐 매가차로 담고서 장했더니 얘 됐어요. teni yang ngarang zogu nyamung batili chang zogu mi jiang ne. Teni ta pede jesere ji ngarang zogu ene ta jangkyu sibasa doa. Ta teni ngarang zogu shirji chiba chamo da jiba tamje teni sama tari teni sanje se doa. Tete nga zo kale pede jesere tel drawochi ngarang zogu teni nga zogu kale ya ngarang zogu teni 저 답지 녀도 도요. 내 답지 야도 좀. 가도 그때는 말안 쏘고. 다 맞고 줄랑 여빅. 애니 대바시바 산지리 요즘 되는 너도 제 투요 와. 되래. 그래서 야요. 다 가서 투고 말해. 미들서 포도 미 두개를 되게 가대야 저투고 말해. 근데 이나들은 곧다걸 두개를 그 산지야요 말아야. 근데 말아. 가래 이나 그 요양 답이요. 이나한테 इसको ठाको द मानती कैसा लोबो द वो छेबरती दुआ
It's through this capacity of being a human, this power of intellect, reasoning, development that we all have, that complete enlightenment is obtained. This is how the Buddha attained enlightenment. Through progressively developing one's qualities, through progressively, slowly, gradually relinquishing all faults, all negativity, being abandoned. Starting out by diminishing and completely abandoning the most coarse, the largest afflictions, afflictive emotions, as taught in the teachings and the realizations of the Shravakas and Prachika Buddhas. Then continuing to progress in this way, developing oneself. You abandon the more subtle afflictions, the more subtle afflictive emotions, obscurations, progressing through these stages of the bodhisattvas, until finally all obscurations, all both cognitive obscurations and the obscurations of the afflictive emotions at the most subtle level are entirely abandoned, relinquished. Then the stage of complete enlightenment, Buddhahood, is attained. So for us too, this is possible, to develop slowly in this same way, to constantly be putting effort towards our development and our abandoning of whatever it is to be abandoned, and slowly developing, progressing the manifestation of enlightened qualities. So for us too, this is the path. This is what is to be trained in. As human beings, as sentient beings, we have this potential for transformation. It can be done in this progressive sort of way. All faults progressively diminishing, qualities developing, until ultimately we reach the stage where all of the latent enlightened qualities of our Buddha nature possessed right now are fully manifest, which is the state of Buddhahood, complete enlightenment. So as human beings, we need to remember that all beings, all humans, no matter who they are, have this potential for complete transformation. Sometimes others point to somebody, they're, deplorables and what Hillary say about they're so bad they can't be changed at all, they're incorrigible sort of thing, which isn't the case. Every being can be completely transformed. Some beings may just have their temporary afflictions or such that they're more dense and more apparent to others. But all beings, all humans have this potential for transformation, for change.
Sanje, 집변대션. 더 제벌전점 줘봐도 집시. 니바테 다양 산제 전화양 다지 내가 높사서도 배더 말아. 이나양 다 다리 가르스는 에네 땜바야 만어바 땜바 담비 추치 아니 마마 여바다
니버상게 튼
네
수바데 잠깐만
아니야 아무 산지 준비 들어봐 니바데 산지 시원해야 땜바 높서는 배도야 봐야 다리에 뜨는 알아서 땜바 만어배 담비 추치 는 저와 여바 니바지 봐 다서 그래 담비게 니바서 추 마송나 야 배우마 니바 추 송지 추 송바게 담비 추 좀 줘라지 추 송게 되다쳐 송바데 땜바 만어봐 양 같은 땜바데 여나야 되라 아니 직 나라는 저거 빼나 아니 마용 배 도고요 말이 빼나 되니 나라는 저 아니 다 가르세 직대한다는 나라서 참아 아니 마셔도네 나라서 뒤에 참아 카보고 좀 하는 때문에 차들가 내가 상만한 직 나라는 저거 되네 나라 그냥
니마 샤르
니마 직대는 니마 샤워해놓고 그 카보고 자마 카보고는 꼭 나차들가 나 혼자 내가 이게 참아 나와 이거네 나나요 내가 가서 직 대바 매바 되네 지금 슈도 매나 가야 타고 말아 근데 많이 봐 얘네 라면 따리 때만 답이 추는 쇼게 얘네 따당 알아서 아니 때가 당 알아서 아니 가르세 다 되게 답변이게 랑이라야 다 가서 답이 추지 가게 했더니 지금 졸바다 원해서 그래
신
가라다 얘네 양 쇼나 양 얘네 양 give 시에 만체나 양 나랑 저거 야부하고 말해 얘들 다 자리 나랑 저거 배나 나라 슈비사마 야바 마세 얘 give 시에 예수 생해요 봐 다 된다게 돈들에 나랑도 give 시에 예수 생해 아니 대답을 특이한 용서 참고 되는 배께서는 얘 좀 줘봐 아세 망소야 망로도 저런 참참 얘네들 그 지키는 데서 망소죠 항상 거기네 미해도나
So the 5 advantages dependent upon external circumstances. So first we had shifted some around, so there's a little discussion on that, so we got it right. So the first of those has the Buddha come. Has a Buddha come during our epoch, a time that we exist in? So yes, we all exist in this time where a Buddha has come, did arrive in our time. So we live in this fortunate time, this fortunate eon, where Buddha has come. So second, did the Buddha teach? Did the Buddha turn the wheel of the Dharma? So that's the second advantage, that the Buddha not only came, but they taught the sublime Dharma. The third, do the teachings remain? So the Buddha has come, he taught the Dharma, and do those teachings remain in their entirety? Or has the sun of the teachings of the Buddha set? Have they diminished? Are they gone? So no, the teachings remain. So just having the teachings remain won't suffice, isn't of any particular benefit if you do not enter into the teachings. If you do not engage with the teachings, it will be of no benefit. Just like if the sun shines on the world, like under Rinpoche's lid, I don't know, the lid of a cup, just the sun rising, it's still dark under that lid of the cup. There's no light that hits that. Meaning that you have to enter into the teachings. Just the teachings being there is not sufficient. Which requires having some semblance of faith, interest, inclination towards the teachings. So having those are all good, and then on top of that, one must meet with a kind spiritual friend or the kind spiritual teacher. So having the fortune of or living in a time where the Buddha has taught, the Buddha arrived, the Buddha taught, the teachings remain, one has entered into the teachings, then it also requires that being accepted by or embraced by a kind spiritual master. Just having interest in the teachings alone, engaging them by oneself, isn't enough. One has to be guided by a qualified spiritual master. So those are the 5 conditions dependent upon external circumstances.
Yes. Da, kita kita sanji kita bahasa ini, long itu pas, ada dengan cuma, siapa tahu, ni, dia nak yang kita mana tu dia nak lojong mana tu kan siapa, mah, ini semua tanya dah, jadi kita mana tu kita tu, kita mana tu ini, long kita bahasa ini. 아니, 또그 때마세네, 야, 다 되게 찍다, 힘보지 얼마. 그래, 당연한 소가 연정다, 장축제 샘다. 공간 얘기 따왔다서 다양한 소가, 아니, 곰 얌선행 때라, 또그 때마세요. 다 당연한 소가, 롱그 때마대요. 아니, 당연한 소가, 아니, 요래라, 또그 때마대요. 아니, 다다 많이 요래지.
많이
말이지.
Nyam-yomares. Haven't degenerated.
Yeah.
Okay, that's right. Generally speaking, when we talk about the Buddha Dharma, we have the teachings of scripture and the teachings of spiritual realization. Lungpe Tempa and Tokpe Tempa. Lungki Tempa. Lungki Tempa. Lungki Tempa, so yes, the teachings of the scriptures, not Lukki Tempa, not the teachings of Luke. So the teachings of scripture are those the teachings to be contemplated, to be thought about, the like words that are taught, the actual scriptures, the texts, to be contemplated on, learned, thought about. And then the teachings of realization, of spiritual realization, are essence, the essence to be gained, developed in one's experience. The experience of renunciation, of developing bodhicitta, the precious mind of enlightenment, of gaining the experience of the view of emptiness and so forth. The things to be cultivated through practice, through meditation, taken into one's own experience through meditation. So, as of today, both of these are still, have not degenerated, are still complete. Both aspects of the Buddha Dharma are still complete today. That aspect of the teachings of scripture and the aspect of the teachings of realization.
Kerik drab mindra, yirik drab mindra, kangaga nangata, mambo patani jorjugwa. There matse ta tata ko parda sanji getani, kanjur tenjur sangate, maso perke jigdon maso yamare. Chat sama yoji yamare. Tati inji jorjugwa. Chikya dan juma chamatane, inji kabu jasares. 가서 랭고 그거 참아 그냥 그렇게 되는 지나는 것도 내가 당기면도 근데 이거 참아 요사나 랭고 하면도 참아 계속 내 대체 저거 직계는 가서 쓰는 거 이거야.
So the teachings of scripture, really these days, they're not only have they not degenerated, they're increasing, developing, proliferating. all sorts of scriptures are being translated into all sorts of languaes. The Kangyur and Tengyur being translated into English and so forth. So up until now, the entirety of the Kangyur and Tengyur, the spoken teachings of the Buddha and the commentaries on those teachings, forever they've only been in Tibetan. If you wanted the entirety of the Kangyur and Tengyur, you had to learn Tibetan, go to the Tibetans. But now it's all being translated into English. Maybe in the future it's going to be these English speakers that are really the guardians, the upholders of these teachings. We'll have no hope. It'll be gone from the Tibetans. Maybe at some point, us poor Tibetans will even have to come to the brink of totally temper. Gyabo Sungshi.
Yeah, Gyabo Sungzang Gambo ni that song the caps Halam. The caps of that Bola Sergi Teka never do about Sergi Teka. Sir Crudo Kurkorme. And it also purchase and around to Pesha Jewel on purchase and answer lega not and never mabo cross on never mabo. Any? Tata Cheso Kesama other say. Cherano Rosso Kiltamaguya, Babalam is a Pajuro Jigo. When you know, I told them it Jagal Paro, Koro, Kale, Yap, didn't care about the Zilla, good relative, Nacho so. Cheso that Cherakaro is not there. Babalam was a Kale, Yap, Taron in your Pajuro. Cheso person of Chamanas.
For the Tibetans, during their process of translating, bringing the teachings to Tibet, incalculable expenses were put forth, given away to accomplish this. Several, 3, 4 great Dharma kings from Songtsen Gampo, Chisung Detsen, and so forth. These great kings gave away all sorts of stuff and engaged in massive endeavors to translate all the teachings, to get all the teachings. It took a tremendous amount of work, effort, huge expense. At that time, Tibet was had massive stores, natural stores of gold, tremendous amounts of gold that they gave all away or gave tons of it away to get the teachings, to receive these teachings, to have them translated. Went through tremendous efforts. Traveling, dying, going to India, requesting, seeking out these masters to receive these teachings. It was quite arduous, incredible. Now here for us, we just show up, and not only that, the teachers, the Tibetan masters go through all this trouble to come find us, come here. They're going through, putting forth all this effort into translating. We don't have to spend a dime, do anything. We show up, the gurus are working extremely hard on our behalf. What tremendous merit we must all have.
Yang kesono jing coba tumpio tene tata mamu yongdo chinga zo tene ta yakhe keso jalilo jojo tene pende keso coba tumpio ta keso tamji ta tata ngaze chijel nala ta computer ma ke tata ngara zo what's we ore inaya ta kamrede kaji tangye mi tata bog nala ta tata ngara zo kamrede so tata ya to yima do re ne 상향 같이 도망고 용도도 또 용도 남줄 바 용도 잘르반들이 가다 로망고는 로들이 나지 잘르바들 마무로가 어떠서다 엠바드니 냥차 매베 따르도 대대
teachings of spiritual realization, likewise, have definitely not diminished. For example, today we have many retreat centers. Retreat centers where you stay in retreat, engaging in the practices. In these retreat centers, there are many examples of accomplished masters, siddhas, the best of which display their realization through display of a rainbow body, attaining a rainbow body. But many other signs displayed of the attainment of spiritual realization, siddhas, yogis, and so forth. So today, now the teachings of spiritual realization are just beginning here in the West. We're just starting them. They have just now arrived. So who knows how long it will take before we have our Western siddhas, our spiritually realized Western practitioners. But in Tibet, there's been this steady stream of siddhas, spiritual masters, yogins displaying the signs of accomplishment, rainbow body, and so forth, all sorts of different signs. So these various different accomplishments that we can see today, there are many, as of late, there have been many masters that are still attaining rainbow body. So all of these are the signs that the teachings of spiritual realization, teachings of realization have not diminished at all.
Ngalaso tenes chejina ta Khenpo Ngagchung tene ta shapo jagnani Lojong jagnani darwa la shapo som jowa la shapo yesel ta rangjo da yemjo ni de donne tene ta shapo yere ngalaso tenes songa ta tela karis kongorse ta ya gwamdang de ta di gondo sari shusaso Khenpo tene Lojong, Ngoloser, Sobatap, Panongju, Teni, Ta, Kamyor. Nyabakabala, Samjini. Ani, Nyabantona, Yabakon, Tayabashi Jebusami, Tamjache, Nyamendosana. 가리 돈이 아니면도 해봐지 돈아 대야 참이 털었네 아니 대야 따부터 아니 나 다시 중요하면 와 말한 주고 지 가르래서나 제발 너네 주선함사 마음 야본자 다 근데 돈을 다 뺏겨서래 아니 다른 쪽 돈을 뺏겨서래 아니 테네테나 영아란 조카르사 아니 pen sam보지 토바 인사 다 티베트에서 아니 다리게 때 토라마로 같이 pen sam보지 라니 담마체 예스피아 담지나 다리도 pen 토바지 그러다 같은 거에 봐 차요는 네 그거지요 예 미시게 셈게 마토비 셈게 그래서 탐지가 양 랭게지 안 하고도 그래서 탐지를 다 뭐가지야지 다 나랑 신경에서는 다 되게 지금 알아 좀 거는 그래서 저기 다 되는 게 따듯이 아니 셈게 탐지가 다 제고도 삼제 장주기 셈게 대답은 되는 제 토바 쇼 삼제제네 나랑게 아니 대답을 되는 제 토닥 건조소나 얘는 양만한 소견에 건조소나 쏘았다. 오다 도시에는 되는 업종생이다. 노당들이다. 다 다리 다와 제 여러압죠. 다 추쪽지에 시작을. 추쪽지에 대 얘는 다 말하는 창여는 얘는 다 창여에 따지를 다做되네.
Then with the 5 advantages dependent upon external circumstances, we check in with ourselves in the same way as with the initial 5. Do I have all these or not? Are all 5 of these complete or not? If they are, then we cultivate a sense of gratitude, joy for having them. If we find we are lacking one, then we come up with means and strive in means to make them replete, to have all 5. So in our system of the 100 days of Lojong, the contemplation topics of the 18 freedoms and advantages traditionally fill 1 week. You engage in 3 days contemplating on the 8 freedoms, and then 4 days contemplating on all 10 of the advantages. So in 4 days you're to contemplate on both the 5 relating to oneself and the 5 relating to external circumstances. So to do this, your actual session, how exactly to do this during the week, how we engage in this practice. So you sit down, you set up the posture properly, you expel the stale winds, you recite your supplication prayers, you give rise to the proper motivation, you fix your motivation, and then contemplate on the freedoms and advantages, on the difficulty of obtaining the freedoms and advantages. Then have it recognize that I have obtained the difficult to obtain freedoms and advantages. You give rise to joy, cultivate this sense of joy, gratitude, coupled with a commitment to make it meaningful, to make our unique situation meaningful. And then again, or you recognize that you're lacking some one of any of those, and then you come up with your means to apply yourself to make them complete. So then, recognizing that you have this unique situation of the 18 freedoms and advantages, you're grateful, have a sense of joy in that, then also recognizing that these haven't just come about by nothing, that they're the result of having previously engaged in past lives, having engaged in aspiration prayers, virtuous aspiration prayers, as well as virtuous karma that has amassed a tremendous amount of merit. So it's based on those causes that this excellent situation has come about. So recognizing that it just hasn't come about from anything, then based on having this excellent support, this excellent situation, not letting it go to waste. I vow, I commit to make it meaningful, and not only for my own sake, but to accomplish the welfare of others, focusing on being a benefit to others by having the freedom to do so. So in recognizing that we have this really unique, quite rare and unique situation that we have, then we take on the responsibility to help others. Because I have the unique capacity to be of service to others, to accomplish my own welfare and the welfare of others, then it follows that it is my duty to do that. Because we're able to. We have the capacity for it. So in that way, we're cultivating bodhicitta, the precious mind of enlightenment. I have the capacity to be of benefit to others. I'm going to focus on altruistic endeavor, focus on helping other beings. Then concluding with aspiration prayers that may I be able to be of benefit to others. May I actually accomplish the welfare of others. Also with supplication prayers, supplicating to all sources of refuge, in particular the 3 jewels, supplicating the 3 jewels. May I have the capacity to truly be of benefit to other beings. So today, that receiving teachings on Lojong, we've covered the first main topic of the contemplation of the 18 freedoms and advantages. So now, go out and meditate on that, engage in Lojong on the 18 freedoms and advantages.
그래서 그때 야 그죠? 금상남 시험은 나니 네 다 다 들은 거랑 좀 발사 빼라 삼바 Changa Samba, any Richard Lawyer Mukomba, J, Chanjo J Mukomba, J, any Mataba, what the Sonata Pedecha. That Kuzal and Shalom down, and then Goram Bishang Sindini.
Meditate in that way. And then your additional homework, your reading homework for the week. Read the sections in Words of My Perfect Teacher. The sections, further sections on the freedoms and advantages, the subsection on the analogies on the difficulty of obtaining the freedoms and advantages, and the section on the understanding the difficulty based on number and based on analogies, and then also the sections on the 8 intrusive circumstances that leave no freedom to practice Dharma, and the 8 incompatible propensities that leave no freedom to practice the Dharma. The last 16, the additional 16 advantages that conclude the chapter. And then also read the chapter on impermanence. Start reading on impermanence. So read these from Words of My Perfect Teacher, and also in the Guide Towards My Perfect Teacher explaining the stages of meditation. And so read these sections as well. So that's your homework.
Ini, tak korang sudah wajib na. Ini ngarang tu pena chat saya dia, tak ngasih nyam tu boleh ada. Tak pena tim, tak ngarang tu dah wina tak, ini tukang tu dah wina tak, catur sanjay tu je. Ini tak ngasih ini, ya tu dia, wajib kerja. Tak ngasih ini lekar jenda yang mare. Nima 강참 제가 같은 Lojong 때 아니 주저 앞에는 제가 드서라고 지 가서 송공연은 이를 Lojong 찍을 차세야 그 소지요래 이나서 와서 참아 내가라고 쟁여 선서 제가 딱 와서 들어오지 가져더니 다시 깔에 가보라고 이러서 이네요 같이 당한 게 차세야 되는 거 지르지라고 사니샤 봐 이나야 다 지나서 그 듣어본 거 맞죠네 다 좋은 양휴 좋은 주저일에 사들이 직삼당 주저길 때 삼당들이 다양한 저 아니 제니 들을 때 제토나 이 말을 같은 야고도 되는 양띠 좋나 되는 정말한 쪽이야 차대 시체 되는시나 디다 차대 양 조직의 나란 저 되는거래 아주 다 딱quan 나란 저다 참관을 되게라고 자 그거 너무 찍고 정해라고 있네요 공정하다고 해야 돼도 와 차선에 그냥 좀 배트에서 찍고 삼모 찍고 땅 그냥 살 찍고 되거든 묘개반나 삼모 건강 직들의 지원도야 야 고졸람니 고졸니 차선에 제거해 그냥 다들 차 버리다 달래 지만가 양제들 기밀적인 계시리스 당당 수이나다 샤자당 되는 양나도 차를 주고요
In this particular tradition, how it's done traditionally, this 100 days of Lojong, in conjunction with the contemplation practice and the practices Rinpoche is taught on Lojong, that actual meditation of Lojong, then you also pair that with doing prostrations. So for example, in our nunnery retreat center, the 3-year retreat center, initially established by, in the tradition of Patrul Sang-ngag Rinpoche, then that's how they practice, and that's how it was set up. That in one given session, so you have a 3-hour session, then 2 hours are devoted to Lojong, the meditation as we've Rinpoche's taught, and then 1 hour of prostrations. So that's how it's done. We split it up in that way. So for the retreatants, and when Rinpoche was in retreat there too, then you have nothing else to do all day, so of course you can do that. Do your sessions all day, split them up in that way. But for all of us now, we have work, we have different obligations, so probably can't be practicing that extensively, doing this couple 3-hour sessions a day. That being said, it is best if you are able that in a given day or daily to set up a 3-hour session, 2 hours of Lojong, 1 hour of prostrations, or an hour of Lojong coupled with some prostrations would be very good. We found in retreat in particular that prostrations serves to be kind of like, or serves as an enhancement practice for the Lojong. If you're just sitting all day, sitting on the cushion all day, doing Lojong, just meditating, doing nothing else, then you get bored, your mind's not clear, your back starts to hurt. So the prostrations really benefit the meditation practice, which is why we do it. So we won't get too into prostrations now. It's coming up later. We'll talk about it more. Rinpoche will teach on the practice of prostrations, how to do them properly and so forth. Just now to point out that in this particular tradition of the 100 days of Lojong, that it's traditionally taught to do it this way. Lojong paired with prostrations.
So
we're out of time, but if there's any questions. There's one.
It says in the, let's see, Machik Laptong is quoted in words in the perfect teacher as be firmly concentrated and loosely relaxed. Do you think we should speak on that a bit?
Maybe the Tar Monolites would help with this too. Do you guys know this quote in Tibetan? Anybody? Dene kunza lama shelo gimana Machik Laptong di long chig.
Timbi dun lurgulesing.
Lurgil.
they have was really
In Dundak Kari. Kang Senate Dango de Dambo Chegore. Things in Dango Chegore, you know, Lurgil Lur Chegore. Dere.
That there any around that Shumbo down nobody in the Sonjo Chego. And go with Shingat Bante, go with the woman of one that standing Roma Jelly. Yapu Roma Jetis, and Jelly Shutua. Harichan the thing and Roma to go one jelly, Yaputani, Harichan. And Kunga was Chuna Gang Shibi West. Oh, my woman that's Chumsa and Mumba did one, never ever used. If you want to drag the pen, Koran give a use. And want to drag the pen, I'm watching you go away. So watching you go. Mares, I'm cheering your man, no cheering your man. Rinpoche was. Oh, yeah, the Churanga, our there. Then I think, come trust on your man, no turning your man. Come no Ramba Chena. 연결해서 얘는 뭐 공부하고 그때 양절 거죠. 삼모단에 거저는 또 맞지도 와. 문대로.
What was it exactly? Have firm concentration and relaxed, and while being loosely relaxed?
Yes.
Rinpoche remembered that quote exactly in the Tibetan, said it, and then I said, and he said, so what's the question? And I said, well, what's the meaning of that? And he said, do exactly as that says. Meaning, the point is to have so you have your taut aspect, the tightness aspect, and then the relaxed aspect. So those are to be practiced as a unity. You're to be tightly relaxed, or attentively relaxed, focusedly relaxed, something. Like the, so that's what Machik's pointing out here, that they're to have this unity between focusedness and relaxed looseness. The two aspects is a unity. Like the story of Buddha Shakyamuni with Ananda, where Ananda had a particular disciple that was trying to teach and couldn't figure out how to meditate, just couldn't get it right. So Ananda went to the Buddha and said, what do we do? How do we teach this? The Buddha said, well, Ananda, how is it that you meditate? What were you expert in your life? You were expert as a lute player, Indian guitar with strings. So the Buddha said, how is it that you get the best sound out of your lute? Is it when the strings are too tight or when they're too loose? If they're extremely tight, is that how it's to be? No, definitely not, Nanda says. So when they're extremely loose, he says, no, not loose either. They're to be perfectly balanced, not too tight, not too loose, this harmony of being tight and relaxed. So Shakyamuni said, yes, exactly like that. Meditate in that way too. That's the key point. So Ananda went back with that instruction, and the individual gained realization based on this instruction, gaining the understanding of how to be taught while being loose. How you need to have a balance between the two.
난 놀드는 게 즉시 치대 잠수 제거래. 치대 잠수 제거래. 치대는
Right.
치대 잠수 맞이나 남행가 많은 거지. 나한테 넣어서 제거래. 나한테 내내 넣어서 맞이나 양 알아주고 직간에 대놓고 차로 직간에 세고 참아라고 차로 그래서 나한테 다 가는데 나한테 넣어서 제거래.
So to be concise with how to meditate. On the outer level, externally, one is taught. One is firm on the outer level. Internally, one is relaxed, loose. If you're not externally firm, then you will definitely fall sway to distraction. But also, internally, you need to be relaxed, at ease.
세마에서는 보면 주바.
Sema.
주바.
Elaboration.
Truba. Agitated.
근데 최든지 봄성에 주바 매하고 주바 철거. 나한테 감어지는데 굳이 주바라고 참. 나서는 더 이렇게 가만히 있다. 오늘 더 스티시 아스.
So if you're tight internally, inside of your firm, too tight, then it increases proliferation of thoughts, agitates the mind. Anyway, Rinpoche says this is the final instruction for the day. So do as he's advising. He says, do this. Be firm, tight externally, the outer level, and relaxed, at ease internally.
That's what.
So we'll stop there for today. Dedication and aspiration prayers.
Sunam diye namje dambanye donne nyebe donam bamje jenge gana je malondu simbe zole ndobando oraju jamba bawo jendere kimbanda konda sambo deya deje dendeda kunje jezo dalo jenge wa Domo dosa jebe gewa namje ge mowa kala joda maba dada gebe sawa sambo jujura domo ye ganre we korwe jiganso ganzan dewa mabe jowe ne jere sewa tenze gyamsa shabe sede bando dengyo ji pechitaten omso dengyawa choya yeje gyome drime lembe yansa kujen yere sanga denzen jo kujen danzen zeten range shio vishpochit lama kuba zawa zawa de choto kujen renwara so Omada membra jingelo, samle jeda yugan jeda nemo zaza dunga mimera, chute sana panjur kondo, bentandu drashe dele banzo shu. At this very moment, for the people and nations of this earth, may not even the name disease, famine, war, and sufferings be heard, but rather may pure conduct, merit, wealth, and prosperity increase, and may supreme good fortune and well-being always arise.
Okay, bye-bye.
One,
Practice
practice well.